Hey guys, in today's interview I will talk to Honey Dijon. Since the age of 13, she has been part of the electronic music nightlife. First in Chicago, then in New York, and nowadays around the whole planet. In her celebrated productions and DJ sets, she's combining disco, house, techno, and many other musical and artistic influences into her unique sound. She's not only playing for the hottest clubs and festivals, but also for high fashion houses like Dior. Furthermore, her role as a trans woman makes her one of the most important persons in the global LGBTQ movement. Besides playing and producing music, she's curating queer art and is about to start her own fashion line in a collaboration with Comme des Garçons. Today you will hear more about her perception of music and art, what helped her to become the person and artist she is today, and how she deals with obstacles in her life and career. Hey guys, I'm sitting here with Honey Dijon, and tonight we will talk about your perception of art, of being an artist.
Okay.
And many other
Hi guys, first of all, hi.
Awesome. So I know that you really like a special period of art.
Yes.
The late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
Especially artists from New York City.
Yes.
And what is it that's so special about this time, about this artist for you?
Well, for me, it was the melding of three different disciplines. We're talking about post-disco. Mm-hmm. We're specifically talking about New York City between 1980 to 1983. This was also a time when nightclubs were very important. They were cultural centers where artists, fashion designers, stylists, musicians, DJs, models, everyone went to the club to socialize, and I used to call it the four principles: meet, make, create, participate. And this was pre-internet, pre-social media. People weren't selfish with sharing each other and moving art forward, regardless if it was fashion or music or art in whatever that form, be sculpture or whatever medium and that was. And it was also the time when AIDS resurfaced, January 3rd, 1981, when it was first published in the New York Times. Mm. So for me, it was a very magical, very short magical period of time that was post-disco, the beginning of hip-hop, no wave, new wave, the beginning of house music in Chicago, which was first started happening in 1983. The Paradise Garage was still open, the Mud Club was still open, Danceteria was still open, the Madonna was beginning. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was a very golden age of art, music, fashion, all colliding and sort of creating creative chaos that the world is still reaping the benefits from. So for me, that's a really golden age for me. I wasn't around at that time. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is secondhand information from friends or people that were in that time. But I've sort of been an archaeologist and trying to learn as much as I can and meeting as many people as I can. And through being a house music DJ and being in New York at the tail end of that sort of club culture where all different types of creatives mixed together, I was able to sort of get firsthand knowledge and information from the people that were actually there. So that's been really awesome for me.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. And what is it that is still relevant for you from this time?
I think what's still relevant for me at this time, and what I try to do as an artist today, is sort of carry on that tradition of working with different types of artists and different mediums. I remember meeting so many different people just from nightclubbing. And when I grew up in Chicago, and later moved to New York, nightclubs weren't just places where people went to dance or to do drugs or all these other things. I mean, they were really places for people to connect in many different ways, sexually, artistically, financially, sustaining themselves is whatever the way they had to sustain themselves. This was pre-internet and pre-social media, so you had to go out, you had to be visible, you had to be seen, you had to express yourself through music. You had to, sell yourself as a DJ. You had to make sure your clothes were worn. You had to be really active in life instead of reactive. So I try to do that with the way I DJ, how I DJ, with combining art with my album covers, animation videos, and all this sort of thing, because I don't really see a difference. And how I came about learning about art was through house music clubs, and because you had inner city young Black people that weren't allowed in white spaces, creating their own spaces and adopting dress codes from a lot of European designers and new wave culture from New York City, European fashion designers, creating their own vocabulary to let you know that I was into the subculture as well. So it was never really separate for me. And I know I get a lot of flack from a lot of people who saying that I'm doing too many things, or that, I'm involved in fashion, but yet I'm a DJ, but then I DJ this kind of party, then I DJ that kind of party. And so people give me a lot of shit for that, but I'm not a linear person, and I never have been. And I don't really sort of believe that you have to limit yourself in any way as an artist. And I think in order to move yourself forward, culture forward, your whatever creative endeavor that you participate in, you have to be out in the world, and you have to move through all different sort of social stratospheres, rich, poor, above ground, underground, popular culture, underground culture. You have to be able to be informed in order for you to regurgitate your own voice.
So mix all these influences from all walks of life together to your voice, to your thing.
I think that's very important to have. You don't necessarily need to do what someone else is doing, but just to be informed and live in the world. You have to live in the world. And I actually think it's important to be exposed or be interested in things that you don't like, because that may manifest in a different way for you. And there is no such thing in the universe as good or bad. It just is. And I apply that to everything. Music, fashion, clothing, people, personalities, scenes. And it's just about, for me, and I think it might have to do with me being a Gemini. We're naturally born communicators and quite nosy and quite curious. So I know a lot of people may not believe in that, but a lot of those descriptions do apply to me.
Yeah. I like the word curious in this context.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
Yeah. I think that is amazing to explore new things.
Especially,
stuff you don't know yet.
Of course. Well, just because you don't know it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I mean, that's the law of physics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So. Amazing. When you look on your career, on your life, was there ever a situation where apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure maybe in this way?
Everyone should hear the word no. I think people are so afraid of no that they don't even know what yes looks like. I think there is no such thing as failure. I think a lot of times maybe I just wasn't ready, and maybe other people weren't ready. But being told no really pushes out of you how bad you want something. If you can't get through the front door, do you go through the back door? Do you go through the window? Do you climb through the gutter? I've been through many gutters. But I realized that no matter how many people told me no, there was nothing else that gave me a sense of purpose or that made me excited. Or that made me, even when I got fired or taken off the decks or told my music wasn't great or that my DJing was too all over the place or promoters wouldn't book me because I had predominantly played in gay clubs and straight promoters were afraid that I was going to alienate or their crowd, and then the gay crowds didn't trust me with their dance floors because I wasn't playing enough pop culture music. And so I really had to figure out a way to stay true to myself, but also making a living. Let's get really real. Records cost money, gear costs money, tapes, just because, you want something doesn't mean that the universe owes it to you. And many years I played in clubs I didn't really particularly want to play in. I played music I didn't particularly want to play, but I had to make a living as a DJ. And it was, and until you get to a certain level in your career where people come to see you for what you do and who you are, you're basically still entertaining and having to prove yourself. So I'm still being told no. I mean, just because even though I have reached a certain level of success in other people's eyes, some people think I'm too commercial now, some people think I'm too expensive now, some people don't think I'm underground enough now. I haven't changed, the perception of me has changed. I still consider myself the same DJ that I was when I first started. And you know how I feel that every gig for me is the first gig. I never take anything for granted. I never rest on what's happened in the past. It doesn't matter how good of a gig I had last week or 20 years ago, or it doesn't matter. Every time I go to DJ, it's the first time I'm DJing. And so I think we live in a culture now where there's instant gratification. We live in a culture now where people are afraid of being politically incorrect or being bullied by not believing what other people believe in order to be accepted. And so I think it's very important to be told no. Because when someone else tells you their no, then you have to find your yes.
Your own yes.
Yeah.
And I think from my experience, it gets easier and easier as
no, it doesn't. It gets harder and harder.
No, like easier when you heard a few no's, you realize, okay, I'm still alive. I'm not dying because of that.
Right.
And it gets a little bit more easy.
Well, I mean, I freaked out. You freak out a couple of times. Like, how am I going to pay my rent? Am I going to be able to do this? Can I buy records? I mean, I've done a lot of things that I'm not particularly proud of. I've never sold my body or drugs, but I've my survival skills kicked in a couple of times and me doing what I had to do to just keep going. And I loved house music so much. And I remember when I was 13 years old and I went to my first party and I was dancing and I had an out-of-body experience because I got so lost in the music that I could physically see myself dancing. And I just used to say to myself, I don't care what I do, I always want to be surrounded by house music. And so I never knew what that would ever look like. Yeah. I didn't, a lot of people know that, I grew up with Derek Carter and a lot of these people. Derek's been DJing since he was 13, I was, when I was 13, I was dealing with gender issues. So for me, I had to get me right before I could think about having a career. So my whole emphasis was on just being okay with myself, and then I could think about a career, and then I could think. So I did a lot of other stuff before DJing, waited tables, danced on bars, worked in clothing stores, hotel phone operators. I did so many different things because for me, it was more about, I don't think that anybody could be really great at anything until they're all right with who they are with themselves. Yeah. And then you can go out in the world and manifest all of your dreams. But if you're blocked with who you are, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
And do you remember some stuff that helped you with, like, dealing with these blocks or with, like, getting through all the no's?
Well, the funny thing is that, along the way, I've sort of had small angels in my life and things have come into my life. Like I had friends that were sex workers and they introduced me to the artist way, and that helped me to journal. Journaling helped me.
A book called
Yeah, it's called The Artist Way, which is a really great book. And it helps you unblock your creative energy. Just being around a lot of non-traditional people made me realize sex workers, trans people, go-go boys, go-go girls, DJs, drug dealers, all types of people that sort of didn't fit into the mainstream or the 9-to-5 or day world. And I realized that, I just had to keep going. And sometimes I didn't know what that keep going looks like. But, I've DJed a lot of weddings, I've DJed a lot of bars, I've DJed a lot of restaurant openings, I've DJed so many different things. But, all of those things helped me to have the skill set that I do now, because I can walk into an environment and instantly understand what that sort of environment needs. I don't change who I am, but I adapt to the room. And that comes from having different kinds of experiences and also having experiences that I didn't enjoy doing. But I realized that I just never gave up. I just always sort of really, sometimes I felt like maybe this is as good as it's going to get. All the things that have happened to me in the last couple of years have been a surprise to me. It's been intentional. Everything that I manifested has been intentional, but it's also a surprise because, everyone says, oh, you deserve all the success that you have to you. And I'm like, well, that's such a Western concept.
Like
there are lots
entitlement.
of people, entitlement. There's a combination of factors: hard work, perseverance, self-belief, luck, timing, sticking around long enough for people to finally understand what you do. Some people get it in 5 minutes, 5 years, 5 days. It took me 20. So.
And when I sum up the last minutes, 2 points you could add to this list of things is like good people.
Of course.
You surround yourself with.
I love what Susie Orman says: people first, money second.
And when you talked about your out-of-body experience, when you were surrounded by music, I thought about the beginning of our interview when we talked about like late 70s, early 80s in New York, which was such a melting pot of a lot of people and a lot of like things surrounding these people. So this is very like one story, I think. And if you would meet like a young musician, a young person who wants to do art.
I'm still young, by the way. Just saying.
A person that is like a little bit younger than you.
That would be 5.
5 to 6.
5 to 6 years old. Okay, what would I say
if you
to
meet
this infant child?
To infant child who is just about starting out. Do you have any like things that you would share with this person?
Well, I think that's a hard question to answer for me, because I think what makes an interesting artist is a life lived. And most of the DJs that I revere have lived a life for a period of time, that have been in different kind of environments, different musical environments. And it's just living, and that living comes out through their art. And so when you're saying someone that is just beginning, I would probably say be patient, learn as much as you can about the thing that attracts you to why you want to do what you want to do. And why do you want to do it? I think a lot of DJs now want to do it for many different reasons. Everybody approaches art from a different, it could be attention, fame, money, sex, power, purpose. I don't think whatever your reason is for doing what you want to do, understand clearly. If you're doing it for fame, then that's all fine and well. Just own it and go for that. But I think we live in a moment now where everything is so instant that people think if I just make this record, or if I'm just play this club, or if I just do in this DJ click, then if I have get an instant 100,000 followers on Instagram, I've made it. And it's like, I can walk into a room and hear if a DJ has been DJing for 5 years and is doing it for a popularity contest, or if they're actually, this is who they are and they have a personality and a point of view and they're trying to communicate musically with people. But I would probably say for someone that is starting out in any medium, learn as much as you can, get out in the world as much as you can, travel as much as you can, and develop yourself before you start developing as an artist. Because if you don't have anything to say as a human being, how can you say something with music or paint or fabric or anything? So it's more important to be I always like to say, when people say, oh, you're such a good DJ, I'm like, no, I'm a good person that DJs. Or I'm a great person that DJs, DJing is what I particularly do, but DJing doesn't give me empathy or compassion or self-awareness. Most of the times I'm just sonic wallpaper to people's Saturday night, So I think it's more important to develop as a human being before anything.
The personality first, and then everything follows that.
Yeah. Well, personality is the same as ego, but just, just sort of live a little, learn, be curious, self-sufficient. Yeah.
Beautiful. And do you have a favorite way of learning new things, of developing yourself?
Do I have a favorite way of learning? Right. Well, I mean, every day is learning. I mean, I mean, I'm fortunate enough at this point in my life, I'm fortunate enough that my job allows me to go to many different places. And so I'm constantly around highly creative people and seeing life in new ways constantly. I wish I had more time to learn another language. I wish I had more time to take cooking classes. I wish I had more time to take pottery.
Which language?
French.
French?
I've always loved French. I don't know why I moved to Berlin. I'm just that bitch. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I kind of haven't ruled that out yet. I just realized right now, at this time in my life, this is the main focus. And we'll see what happens, when this settles down. If it settles down, knock on leather. I hope it doesn't. I hope I can make the choice before the choice is made for me. But yeah.
And some minutes ago, you mentioned quite a few times that you like to manifest stuff.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit how you do that?
Well, first of all, manifesting anything is being clear about what you want and why you want it and what will that do for you. Serial killers manifest. I mean, if you focus on something long enough, if you focus on something long enough, eventually it's going to, if you put all of your attention, manifestation is just highly focused attention and putting yourself and allowing yourself to have those things that you really want to manifest. I tend to think a lot about why I want what I want. I write it down. Sometimes it changes. Sometimes the thing I want is not what I wanted at all. It was something similar to what I wanted. Because a lot of times you don't know what you want until you get it. And then when you get it, you realize, well, that's not really how I wanted it. And so what you want constantly changes also. So even if you're manifesting something, that's going to evolve just as much as you do. I thought if I reached a certain level of success, or if my name was at a certain level, or if I played at this club or that club, or if I did all of these things, then I would be, happy. And I realized that the happiness for me comes in the doing it. The happiness for me comes in the just blending two records together, or finding new music, or making a try. That's where my happiness is. It's not the end result of something. It's more of like, it's great that I have the opportunity to play in these really great places and spaces. And it took many years for people to say yes to that. Yeah. But I think manifesting anything, love, self-acceptance, money, a career, takes clarity. And writing it down and showing up for it. A lot of people say they want something, but they don't show up for it. Yeah. They don't sacrifice for it. They don't put themselves in positions for it. Showing up for life is 90% of getting what you want.
Like show up and to react
Be
to
present.
what shows up.
Yeah.
And then do the next steps.
Yeah. Showing up means, making a lot of music. Showing up means practicing DJing. Showing up means going out to hear other people play. Showing up means going to the gym when you don't feel like it. Showing up means, saying you want something takes effort.
And also time.
And time. Showing up means, well, I have to do this job in order for me to go home and make a couple of tracks, because eventually maybe I'll be able to transition out of that, Showing up is doing the work.
And what I just understood is that you said, like, success for you now, how you see it now, is like being able to do it, go to the studio.
Yeah, success for me is I have the space now. Success for me is now I have the opportunity to keep creating. It's not the applause. Although it's nice when people say yes, I've been in positions where people say no, and for me, there's no difference in a way. It's nice to be asked to the dance, and it's nice when people like you, but you have to be prepared. Not everyone's going to, and you still have to live with you. And luckily, the success happened, or this perception of success happened to me, after I've developed as an adult. Yeah. So I'm able to put it in perspective, It's not so much about, awards or applause or all these sorts of things. It's really nice to hear those things. But, at the end of the day, for me, I'm a working artist. And the fact that people now take my ideas seriously, or people take my calls and they listen to what I may have to propose, is the success, and it continues. It doesn't change. Every day I get to get up and choose how I want to live my life. That to me is success. Not a lot of people have that sort of luxury. And luxury to me isn't houses or cars or gold watches or all this other sort of stuff that people need for other people to see them successful. For me, it's the fact that I get to get up every day, I get to choose what my day is going to look like, and I get to do the thing that I love, and people take my fucking phone calls.
But again, here you are super flexible, and you also know how to enjoy like luxury or nice things. It's like,
well, I mean, luxury is different for I mean, luxury. What is luxury? To me, the ultimate luxury is time.
Time.
Yeah, it's very time is luxury, love is a luxury, friendships are a luxury. My parents are still alive. That's a luxury.
Yeah.
I like nice shit.
You're only 25, so
yeah. Well. I didn't say my parents were. I like, aesthetically, I love nice things, or what I consider to be nice things. But that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be expensive things.
Yeah.
But I like expensive things just as much as I like things that aren't as expensive. But for me, it's more about what I really love more than a price tag attached to anything is the idea behind what someone done, the craftsmanship, the idea. And that really, to me, doesn't have a value, So yeah, it doesn't matter if it's made by, a designer brand, or if it's made by, a local artist. To me, it's, does this give me an emotional does it give me emotional substance? Does it make me excited about having it around me? Does it please me to look at it? Does it enrich me in some sort of way, and not as a status thing? It has to enrich my life and not for me to have it as a status symbol so other people think a lot of these status symbols are very bourgeois ideals, and the bourgeoisie has never been exciting for me. So I prefer to be in the gutter.
And since quite a few times you travel a lot, like really a lot. I think you
way
played
too much for
15
any human.
gigs.
Last month I did 15 gigs, 5 weeks, 3 gigs each weekend. It was a lot.
And
grateful for the work, but physically and mentally and emotionally it's taxing, because it's not only the traveling, it's also the energy exchange from DJing, not sleeping, not eating properly, not being able to take care of myself for me. That's the difficult part.
Do you still have any tips for people who do this a lot as well? How to do it?
I can tell you how I do it. I can tell you how I do it. I mean, how I do it is I stopped pretty much drinking alcohol. There's just no way that for me to do that with such a grueling schedule, to be hungover when sometimes you have 30, 40 minutes just to get sleep or whatever. Sleeping as much as humanly possible when I can. I don't do artist dinners. I don't do DJ dinners. I don't go to after hours. I literally, for me, a lot of times it's getting to the place, trying to perform the best of my ability, and then peace out. Depending if friends are playing, I'll stay a couple of minutes afterwards. But, I really feel like now, as dance music has become so commercial and commodified, I feel like if you get to a certain level, you have to treat yourself or look at yourself as an athlete. And you have to rest properly, hydrate properly. You have to be, because like I said at the beginning of this conversation, being a great DJ for me is being a good person. So I like to keep my vibration as positive and high as possible when I go to perform or DJ. So I think for me, it's just about trying to take care of yourself as best as possible. I try not to eat horrible food. I try not to, on the road it can be very difficult. Sometimes the only thing you can get is a pizza. Sometimes the only thing you can have is a sandwich. But I try to limit that to just on the weekends, and during the week I try to eat as healthily as possible. And exercise, gym, surrounding myself with people that are good for me is another way I take care of myself. Putting myself in environments that uplift me, social circles and things like that. I think cutting out negative people, negative energy is probably the best way that I can take care of myself.
Amazing. And do you have any other investments that come to mind?
Any other investments?
Yeah, like what do you think? What was the best investment you've ever made? Like time, money, energy?
The best investment that I ever made was self-love and acceptance. The best investment that I ever made was investing in myself. And not worrying about what other people thought about me, not letting past romantic relationships dictate the ones that I have now. Not letting the past dictate my now. But I think I really believe investing in yourself and also giving back are the two of the best things that you can do, and then everything else sort of unfolds from there. You sort of have to put yourself in the energy space to. A lot of people say they want love, but they don't know what it looks like when it shows up. A lot of people say they want success, but they don't know what to do with it when they get it. A lot of people say they want all of these things because they were told that this is what happiness looks like. And I think for me, figuring out what happiness meant for me and not necessarily what it looked like for other people was sort of the biggest investment that I did. Because it takes a lot of courage to go, I don't play trendy music. I don't play sort of fashionable things. I tend to think that I play music that's very sort of I like to call it progressive soul. It's I really, really respect the foundation of house music and disco and techno. And I'm open to new things, but for me, I just sort of lost my train of thought. I was sort of going into some existential thought about stuff like that. But what was the question again? What was the investment?
Yeah, the best investment.
Well, I digress. So myself.
In yourself. So for me, it sounds like a lot of like getting rid of pre-made concepts and define things for like how you want to define it.
I think I had a really great friend that gave me a line that I live by. Just because someone told you something doesn't make it true. And that's my mantra. I live by that every day. We're bombarded with so much information on how to be, what this looks like, what that looks like, what happiness looks like, especially in America, because there's $1 billion industry in happiness. And so, they've even found a way to commodify sex, dating apps. So I think for me, realizing just because someone told me something didn't make it true, and that opened up for me to find what truth it was for me. And my truth isn't the same as anyone else's. And a lot of preconceived, and I think when you're a person of trans experience, you learn these things very early that, what preconceived ideas about people are based on how they present themselves or their thoughts or beliefs or anything like that. So I think when you sort of have to reconstruct who you are as an individual, you start asking these harder questions or deeper questions that a lot of people come to later in life. Because, so for me, just because someone told you something doesn't make it true.
Nice.
He's stumbling. Wrap this up, Mama has to go to bed.
Maybe at the end of the interview now, we could come back to where we started in this like late 70s, early 80s years. And you had like 4 words for it, like...
Meet, make, create, participate.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the word that like struck me most is like
participate.
Yeah. If somebody wants like to participate in the scene or like in the scene, do you have like something you would tell him, like an advice or
tell him or her? Well, participating, like, it depends on how you want to participate, A lot of people just enjoy it, being in that environment without having to be a DJ or a producer. Some people just love being around DJs or artists and musicians, or love the music so much that they're in those sorts of scenes. There's not one way to participate in music, Some people found labels, some people do graphics, some people run record labels, and there's different, some people are A&R, some people love to manage people. Participating, again, means showing up for your intentions for anything you want to do.
Yeah. So like show up and don't let your insecurities or fears hold you back in a way, because I think a lot of people have a lot of amazing ideas, but then they start like, I shouldn't do this, or I'm not allowed to do this.
Right. Well, that comes back again to having clarity about what you're doing and why you want to do it, what your intentions are for doing it. And this is why I say develop who you are as a person first. And then when you have a clear idea of who you are, then those fears aren't really there.
Yeah.
Because you already have no. So if you already have no, you might as well try for a few yeses. So, but you know, for me it was quite difficult because I mean, when I was growing up, you know, most of my friends were, you know, or peers were DJ Sneak, Derek Carter, Green Velvet, Danny T. You know, these were people that were well-established artists that had a singular voice, that were very influential in dance music. And here I am trying to make a record, and I had such a fear that my music or my skills wouldn't live up to theirs. And I had to get over that hump because by doing it, I realized that taking all of those influences and how I filtered them through my experience or through my ears was going to be something new. No one is doing anything new. Let's just get this straight. There is no underground anymore. Underground ended in 1983. You know, there's just, you know, I sort of hate this elitist idea of underground because it's gone. You know, subcultures are gone. You know, the internet changed that. You know, everyone can go to websites, blogs, word of mouth. And now with social media, Instagram, you can't even really have a party unless you post it on Instagram. Because our cities, and this is, to me, it goes back because our cities are so gentrified and so expensive, real estate is so expensive, that, you know, you can't even rent cheap spaces or have warehouse spaces, and they're getting pushed further and further out of our city centers. So, you know, that time was also when, you know, New York City was bankrupt, and, you know, real estate was really cheap at that time. And so you were able to have all these different clubs, and you didn't have all these gentrified neighborhoods with people with families and noise complaints. And, you know, all of these things changed the culture of our cities, the people that inhabit our cities, the way people, you know, people that can afford these high rents aren't nightclubbing till 6 a.m. They're getting up, going to work, or they have families, you know. So it's a different, you know, nothing is separate, you know, nothing is separate at all. And so I think, you know, there's another great book that people should read called Gentrification of the Mind, and it talks about AIDS and also our gentrified cities. They sort of happened at the same time. And so you had a generation of people between the ages of 20 and 40 wiped out. And then you had all this real estate, and then our city started to get gentrified. And then so, you know, it was a cocktail of situations that, for me, ended underground and subcultures, you know, that combination. But we're still feeling today, you know, that, you know, I think what really changed everything was AIDS, honestly. Because not only did it get rid of the highly creative people that created the art, the audience also died from that. And so you had people that information wasn't passed down to younger generations to continue those things. So, you know, I think we're just starting to see the ripple effect of that now.
Yeah. And I know that it's one of, like, it's really important for you to transfer this information.
Yeah, it's super important, and it's super important.
Can you?
I don't like to, you know, I have this
like
conversation with Derek. You know, I'm not trying to be the savior or be on a pedestal or anything like that. But for me, the way I experienced clubbing and the way I experienced music and the way that I experienced the art of DJing and presenting music is slowly being gone because, you know, it goes back to gentrification and it goes back to the internet. People don't go outside of their comfort zones so much anymore. When I started clubbing, it didn't matter what economic status you were, your sexual orientation, your gender. You had bankers partying next to drug dealers, partying next to transsexuals, partying next to skaters, partying next to, you know, all sorts of people. And now people, to me, it's so segregated. People that listen to techno don't go to a deep house club. People that listen to deep house wouldn't be caught dead in a drum and bass party. People that listen to drum and bass don't go to a soulful house party. And in the environment that I grew up in, you did all of that shit. And there was a social mobility between tribes, and it mixed in it. This is what created new sonic soundscapes. We don't have any new music. For me, house music is peaked. That's my personal opinion. A lot of people may disagree with that. But for me, it hasn't progressed anywhere because for me, the culture that propelled it is gone. And for me, it's very, very important to continue the tradition of that sort of bricolage, which is a French word for sort of sampling or putting together things, from all types of musical spectrums, all types of people, all types of scenes, all types of things. And so for me, that's what I hope to do when I DJ or when I present something out of, the music or whatever I do, is to just to bring this sort of harmonious chaos together to create something new. And I'm looking, the thing that strikes me so much is like, I want to hear young queer people or, where's the new, the new sound in techno? Where's the new sound in house music? I want to hear a 20-year-old queer person making a dance record from their scene. I want it mixed with some, I want to hear this sort of mix that I don't, I'm searching for the new thing too. And, I don't always live in the past. I like new things. I like to be around new people, new young people, and new things. But I want to hear something that needs to be pushed forward. And I'm still waiting for that new sound to happen. We haven't had a new sound in quite a while.
Yeah.
Some people may disagree with me. Maybe I'm not in the right scene. Maybe I'm traveling too much. Maybe, I'm focused on my own thing too much as well. But I like to think I'm open-minded enough to notice it when it does come along. And, my tour manager is 22. I'm constantly around really young people, and I'm constantly asking their opinions about what they're excited about and what they're listening to and who do they think is new. And they're still, the new thing is the 90s, People are trying to make 90s house records now. I lived through that already, so I want to hear 2020 records.
Something that came into mind when you talked about you being surrounded by Derek, Danny, and these people, and their production, your productions.
Yeah.
Was
well, my productions still aren't as great as theirs. They're to me masters. I get a lot of inspiration from them.
Right.
But I do the best that I can with the skill set that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And also realizing that I can't be a Derek, I can't be a Danny, I can't be these people, but I can be the best Honey. I can't, but that doesn't mean that their influences don't impact how I present or show up to make a record. But it's important to have people that know something better than you in your life.
Yeah, I once read when you are like the cleverest or like most advanced people in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, I'm in the wrong room. And I still feel like I'm learning how to be a DJ. I'm still, every time it's like a muscle. The more I do it, the more surprises come out of it. I don't feel I've mastered it. I don't feel like it's something that I'll ever master. I think I'll be really good at the skill set that I have today, but that will constantly evolve. You get more confident, you get more relaxed, new music comes in, and your ear opens up to a different sound. New crowds change every 5 to 10 years. They have different expectations of how to party and experience music. So you never are ever as great as you think you are. But it doesn't mean you're not as good as you want to be.
Beautiful. And last question.
Yes. Last question.
If you imagine like a gigantic billboard,
yes,
that everybody on this planet could read, what would you write on it?
No. Just no. No is my favorite word. Because no is where your power lies. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I don't want to do that. No, that isn't good for me. Even though it may be great for my bank account or my profile, or I think having a sense of self and saying no for your well-being is the best gift you can give to yourself. So that would be my statement on the billboard. Hell no.
Hell yes, in terms of...
Well, hell no is hell yes is the opposite of hell no, because you can't get to the yes unless you don't know what the no is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hell yes for this interview. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, Mr. Stuby.
And yeah, I hope you enjoy watching it, and I see you in the next interview.
And we'll see you, well, I won't see you in the next interview, it'll be the next person, but Thank you for having me.